Thanks for coming. And my name is Umang. I'm from issist Assistive Technologies. I'm the president. What I'm going to be talking about today is a product that's not just developed by us, but it's also a joint venture between us and a company called Site Enhancement Systems. We are both based in the Toronto area in Ontario, Canada. So over the past 2 years, we've been working on something pretty unique. And this whole idea started, when we were walking at a trade show, and we realized that there's a need for something more than just the solutions that we've become accustomed to until today. So I'll show you an example of 3 products that you're probably all familiar with if you're dealing with low vision. The 3 examples here, the first one is a desktop CCTV that you see on the left-hand side. Then you see a portable laptop connectable CCTV in the middle. And then you see a scan and read device on the right-hand side. The thing with these 3 products is they're all good for what they do, but there's different functionalities that they offer. So the desktop CCTV is more of a fixed on your station. The portable is good for classroom environments, and the scan and read is good for somebody who just wants to hear whatever's on a piece of paper. But we said, what if we could combine the benefits of all of these 3 into a single product? And that's what we did. And we call that product Flick. We released Flick at ATIA Orlando of this year, so it's only been about 3 months since it came out. So let's talk a little bit about the category of video magnifiers that exist today. Now, for the most part, what you'll see is they're all pretty much the same design. So if you think of a desktop CCTV, they have a camera, they have a screen where you view whatever it is that you need to see enlarged, and then you have some kind of a tray table to push the item that you want to see. And yes, there are some differences here and there, but in general, they're about the same design. They have all these common features. So if we think about the business school 101 graph of the kind of space we're dealing with, let's say that we have smartness on the y-axis and easy to use on the x-axis. What you'd see is that some of the desktop CCTVs come in, they're relatively easy to use, but they're not so smart. They're pretty limited in what they can do. You put something there, it'll enlarge it, and that's about it. It'll change the colors. Then you've got things that are more advanced that sort of offer OCR capabilities that will connect to your laptop, but then they get more complicated and it gets difficult to use. And we don't want to do any of that. What we want to do is we want to make something that's way smarter and way easier to use. And that's where Flick fits into this space. So let's take a look at 3 usual suspects. These are normal desktop CCTVs. You've got, the first problem here is you've got a tray table. Nobody likes a tray table. A tray table is more of a annoyance because you have to keep pushing it around all the time. And there's a good reason why tray tables exist. Tray tables, it's much easier to push something on a movable surface than on a flat desk. And they have improved over the last 30 years. But we want to get rid of that entire concept altogether if we can. The next problem with desktop CCTVs is that they point down. We want something that doesn't just point down, because if you want to look at the blackboard, or if you want to put your lipstick on, you should be able to point forward as well. Then there's another category, which are the portable CCTVs. So this is an example of a typical portable CCTV. What you've got here is you've got a camera that you can adjust with your hands. You can make it point down at your book, and you can make it point forward at the blackboard if you want to see what's happening in the classroom, which is great. But the problem here is that you still have to do this manually. So every time you want to point down to your book, you take your hand, you pick up the camera, and then you position it. and then you find wherever it is you want to point. Once you've pointed down, for example, in the picture on the left, the girl then has to slide the page around because there's no tray table. Obviously, this thing is a portable system, so there's no tray table to push the book. So you're left manually pushing it around in a classroom, trying to find out whatever it is you want to read or write. And then, if you want to point at the blackboard, you again take your hand, you put it on the camera, and you point it forward. And then you have to find wherever it is that you want to point on the blackboard. Once you've found your orientation on the blackboard and you've zoomed into whatever it is you want to read, this whole process takes so long that you're probably behind in class already anyways. The teacher's probably erased the blackboard by that point. So it's not a convenient and efficient way to do this. So we want to come up with something that doesn't have these drawbacks. So we're going to reinvent the CCTV with Flick. We're going to start with a revolutionary new interface, which is the result of many years of R&D. We spent 2 years doing this. And the way it works is it's a precise dance between the software and the hardware working together to make this all happen. So if you think about it, how do we use screen magnifiers? Now, screen magnifiers are interesting. They've been around. Everybody knows zoom text. That's been around for some time. You take a mouse and you move the mouse around to see whatever it is that you want to see. You can zoom in, you can zoom out with the mouse wheel, and you can look around. It's a fairly convenient interface. You don't have to push anything around, obviously. It's a digital system. And when you have a digital system, you can do a lot of things. So essentially what we're talking about is this whole idea of putting a book on a tray table and pushing it around. This is a positioning problem. If you can tell where you want to look, and that's what you want to zoom in on, that's the problem that we're trying to solve. And a mouse is a great interface for doing this. I mean, people have been using screen magnifiers for 20 years, and people have been using mice for even more than that. And it's so good that we really haven't found anything better than a mouse till today, at least we're using your desktop. So we're going to try to use the benefit of the mouse-based interface as opposed to pushing something around. So we're going to learn from screen magnifiers. You've got a problem when you try to do that. The problem that we ran into was that the mouse is a digital device. It's zeros and ones. But when you're trying to look at a page, it's a physical thing. It's not like a screen magnifier where you can just pick an area of the screen and just make it bigger. You have a problem here. You're trying to bridge the digital world with the physical world in order to make this happen. So how are we going to do this? We're going to use motors. This is a common thing that many people have tried. Digital interfaces and physical interfaces are bridged with the use of motors. You've got the wire, which is the digital connection, and you've got the gears, which turn based on your control of the motor. So the physical system will respond to your digital requirements. And the idea is that till now, the whole concept has been that the man moves for the machine. If you've got a tray table, you push it around. If you've got a camera that has to point forward, you pick up your hand and you push it forward, and then you position it. We're going to think of this another way. We're going to say the machine moves for the man. And when you think of the problem like that, the solution becomes quite obvious. So what are we going to do? We're going to move the tray table, right? You could put a bunch of motors on the tray table and move it up and down and left and right, and then you've got an automated system. But we're not going to do that. Nobody wants a tray table. It gets rid of your portability. It's big. It's bulky. We don't want a tray table. So we're going to get rid of that. What we're going to do is we're going to make the camera move instead. So this is a picture of Flick. You've got the camera, and the camera can move. The first thing is it works amazingly well. We've spent a lot of time fine-tuning this thing to make it work exactly as it should. There's no XY table. It makes it super portable. There's no physical interaction. Once you put whatever it is that you want to read, you never touch it again. The way you look at the different parts of whatever it is you want to read is you use your mouse, kind of like you use in Zoom text. It's incredibly precise. There's no more issue of pointing a little to the left, a little to the right. Let's say you want to look at the blackboard. If you were to position the camera manually with your hand, you would overshoot, because a small movement in the camera's angle is a big movement when you're looking at something 5 meters away. So that gets rid of the problem, because we can control very precisely where the camera looks, because it's controlled by motors. We can go down to as little as a degree. It points forward and down automatically. So you don't have to pick up your hand, point the camera forward or down. The entire system is automated. And you see that little lens on there that you have to snap on and off when you point the camera down and up? We automated that as well. The entire thing is completely automatic. So you never touch anything physically. The whole thing is about 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds, so it fits in a bag quite easily. This is the front. The head that you see on the left of the main body, that has a shaft which can rotate, and that's controlled by motors. It can also look left and right. There's another motor inside of there which can tilt for the x-axis and the y-axis. So we've solved this problem with using 2 motors for the x and the y-axis. And then there's a third motor in there which closes and opens the lens automatically. This is the back. It's pretty straightforward. You've got an on-off switch. There is a USB wire for a connection to your machine. And there's a power charging system. There's 3 LED lights which tell you whether it's charging or if it's full. That's it. There's 9 inches of space between the top of the camera and your base. So there's plenty of space to take your pen and write something if you need to. And one of the other things is it's got 9 hours of battery life. So you don't have to worry about the thing running out halfway through the day. It's enough charge for a good full day's work, or if you're in a classroom or a school, it's good enough for that. So we've come up with some pretty amazing hardware. But the issue is that without revolutionary software, the hardware is like, it has no soul. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with some amazing software which is milestones ahead of any other CCTV. Now most CCTVs, what they'll do, especially the live camera ones, they'll show you the video, they'll allow you to zoom in and out using some buttons, and they'll change the colors. That's about as far as most people go. We're going to go way beyond that. So what we're going to do is, first thing we did was we kept our software cross-platform. So the software that runs for Flick, it runs on Windows, and the Mac version is due for release end of June. We figured out a couple of different equations to make this all work, because what's happening here is as the camera moves, all your focus distance, your lens angles, everything is changing. If you've noticed with other CCTVs, everything is fixed. The camera is fixed in spot, and the height is the same. Everything's the same, so they can get a consistent result. Since we're moving, we have to dynamically recalculate all our equations, and we change the focus and all of that on the fly. Yes, we can do OCR as well. We can read out an entire page, we can save the entire page, and we can pretty much manipulate it just like you would with a full, megapixel camera that takes a shot of the page and does nothing else. We also support touchscreen, so you can run this on a tablet. You can just touch it with your fingers, kind of like an iPad, and look around. You could zoom in and out with your fingers by doing the pinch motion on your touchscreen. You've got some amazing mouse control. You can pretty much do most of the things you need to do with a mouse. You can go up, down, left, right. You can do all of that. And there's a keyboard key to do pretty much everything, so it's super easy to use. It comes in 3 form factors. You can use it on a desktop. So for example, you can use one of those all-in-one PCs that are quite popular these days. You basically just plug it in, and that's it. You run the icon and it starts. So you've got your desktop form factor. You can run it on a laptop, so you've got it working in a classroom, and this is what we found is the most popular option for people who use this. And then you've got the tablet option, so you can use your fingers to look around and zoom in and out. And there's one more thing. The Flick camera comes included with iZoom. If you've heard of iZoom, it's a screen magnifier and reader, which is completely portable. It doesn't install anything. It doesn't use any admin rights. You plug it into your computer. It does the magnification. It does pretty much all the reading. It's essentially a full-featured screen magnifier and reader, and that comes for free with Flick. So the idea here is that we've got one solution that does everything. You've got a desktop system if you need to. You've got a portable CCTV. You've got an OCR device because Flick does that. You've got a screen magnifier because iZoom is included. It's a distance camera because you can look far away and down. And of course, you need a computer to run it, so you do have a computer as well. So that's the reason Flick is so powerful. We've accomplished everything we wanted to do when we started out. So we'll do a small demo. There's going to be a bit of a lag because the camera is running at a fast speed, and by the time it reaches you guys, it's going to be choppy. So just remember that. But I'll go through some of the basic features. Okay, can people see the video from the camera? It's pointing at a page. Okay, great. So what the camera is looking at the moment is looking at a page that I've cut out. It's looking straight down, and I'm going to use my mouse to look lower. So I'm looking down, and I'm not touching anything. Keep in mind, this is just with my mouse wheel. So I'm going to keep looking down to the bottom of the page. And I've hit the bottom. When I hit the bottom of the page, it automatically stops moving because it knows I've hit the bottom, because it knows where I'm looking. And because the system knows where I'm looking, it can be quite smart as to what it can do. So let's look a little bit zoomed in to this area. So I'm going to zoom in, and I've zoomed in with my mouse. I just used the right mouse button and moved the wheel to zoom in. So I'm going to look here at this paragraph. Now, the way you would read this is the beginning of the paragraph. You'll see it says the returns on mortgage. Now, I can use my mouse to look to the right, so I could go here and then see it says mutual funds. And then to go back to the beginning of the next line, you could move the mouse to the left, just like you do with the screen magnifier, and it would go back to the left. But there's a faster way that we can run this system. Because if you think about it, going back to the beginning of the next line is a waste of time. There's no reason, because since we are using a digital system, we don't have to physically drag our way back. So I'll show you an example. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the right arrow on the keyboard to jump to the right. So I'm going to read this next sentence. It says, as you can see from figure 11.4, mortgage mutual funds are less volatile than bond funds. But now I've reached the end of the line. To jump back to the beginning of the next line, I can press a button on my keyboard, which is essentially a reset button. If I hit that, it jumps back immediately to the next line, so I don't have to drag my way back. What this does is it allows you to read way faster. You're only doing what you need to do. You're not wasting time dragging your way back and forth. So that's one of the things you can do. You can change the colors, just like any other CCTV, so I'll show you that quickly. If you click the top right, you get a small menu that comes up. This is the color palette, so I can change the colors. I'll do that. This is grayscale. That's high contrast. And that's original color. And you could use all the different color schemes. I'm not going to bother too much with all the color schemes because this is standard stuff in the CCTV industry, and you've seen all of this. But we can do pretty much anything you need to do with the colors. What I'm going to show you is the camera pointing forward by itself. So this little icon here, the second icon, this is the toggle camera up and down option. So right now I'm looking down. But if I want to look forward, I click the button, and the camera will automatically point forward and snap the lens off as well. So it's a completely automated. I haven't touched anything. I can look around my room by just moving my mouse. So I'm going to look to the right. And there's a board. And we're going to zoom in to something on the board. There's nothing there, but we'll zoom into this line. And I can look around. So you can look forward, you can look down, you can change the colors. Now what I'll show you is the most difficult aspect of this system, which is the OCR. This took us about a year to do because it was the most challenging. The reason it's so difficult to do OCR is because this is a normal VGA camera. The problem with OCR is you need to have good resolution to take the picture, and then so the computer can recognize the text. What ends up happening with a VGA camera, if I zoom out all the way to try to take a picture of this page, is you don't get the whole page at any given time. At most, if you zoom out, you get about half the page. And you'll notice the text is really small. It's almost small enough for a computer not to be able to pick this up. In fact, it is small enough not to be able to pick it up. So this is the reason nobody's been able to do this, to get this small text to be read accurately. But there's a trick here. Since we can move the camera at will, we could look at different parts of the page at will and then put them together in software using some clever techniques. So think of it this way. We could look at the top left of the page, and then once we're done with that, we could look at the top right, and bottom left. And then you could stick the whole thing together and then read it out. And we can do this because we control where the camera looks. So I'm going to try to read this page out using that system. And the way you do the reading is very simple. You double click, and whenever you double click, the camera will start reading. So I'm going to just let it take the different shots of the page, and then it's going to start the stitching and the reading process. So it's taken all the different pieces of the page that it had to. Now what it's doing is it's going to stitch them into one big picture, as if it was taken by a 5-megapixel camera. And then after that, it will go ahead and start to do the OCR process. Okay, so the progress bar is moved. It's running a little slower right now because I've got all the webinar and all that going, but it should be done in a couple of seconds.
Characteristics of residential mortgages. First, they tend to have high non-principal amounts, so each mortgage held in the fund is larger. Second, they tend to have longer terms.
Okay, so I'm sure you guys can you hear this? Can you hear it talking?
Residential mortgages have terms from 1 to 3 years on average.
Okay, great. So it's going to go ahead and it's going to read out the whole page.
Mortgages have terms of 3 to 5.
So I'll go ahead and get it to stop, but it'll finish up reading the whole thing. What you'll notice is that before I close this, it's stitched the entire page together into one giant picture. And you can't even tell where the stitching happened. It's so good. And that was the key to this whole process. So I'll go ahead and close this. All right. So we've got OCR. We've got forward pointing. We've got down pointing. We've gotten rid of the tray table. We've got a portable system that runs for 9 hours on batteries. And you've got the final system coming in a neat package with iZoom. And that's essentially what I wanted to show you today. I'm happy to take any questions at this point. Okay, go ahead, John. I'm not sure if I know how to work this. Okay. Yes, we can do the reformatted as well. I didn't show you that, but I'll show you that. So I'm going to go to my menu, in the menu, if we go to the reading option and then do the reformat options, and I'm going to choose, oh sorry, not this, in reading mode, I'm going to choose reformatted text instead of the real picture. So I'll do reformatted, and then if I run it again, let me go ahead and run this thing again. It'll just show you the text, and then you can scroll through the text and have it read out to you as well. And while it's doing that, yep. Yes, so it's compatible with Windows XP, Vista, 7, and the Mac version is coming out at the end of next month. One thing you might be curious about, I didn't mention the price. So the price for the entire system with the iZoom and all of that is $3,500 US. Okay, are there any other questions? Yes, you can get it without iZoom, but I mean, it's not, the price doesn't change, so we're just throwing that in for free, actually. With regards to Steve's question, I can't go into our sales volume, but we've had a great response so far. And for John, yes, it does work on Windows and Mac. You can change the reading preferences. You can change the volume, the speed, the highlight box, the background color, all of those standard things you can configure. If you need more information about this product, go to our website. We have a website dedicated to this product itself. It's called flickcamera.com. No dashes, no spaces, just flickcamera.com. And you can see a full video of it actually moving and all of that if you're interested. Yes, we've tested it with the issist tablet at the moment. It runs, the issist tablet is running Windows 7, so it's just like a normal computer, but we support the touchscreen interface. So you could put your finger anywhere and drag just like you do on an iPad. All right, so if that's it, then thank you for coming today.